The Legend of Jigong Chapter 99.
So it's late at night, the atmosphere is super tense, very quiet, but danger is physically occupying the same space as the target.
We have the thief, Ma Jinchuan.
Right, operating under the alias Formless Taisui. And he has come to assassinate the official and steal a highly valuable government seal.
And he has a massive, seemingly insurmountable tactical advantage.
He's completely invisible.
He is. But the mechanics of this invisibility are crucial to understanding why the scene unfolds the way it does.
Because it's not just a magic cloak, right?
No, not at all. The text is very specific here. Ma Jinchuan doesn't just have a generic magic cloak that he throws over his shoulders whenever he feels like it. He actually possesses 12 specific invisibility talismans. Yeah, and these talismans are explicitly tied to the 12 earthly branches.
Okay, wait. The earthly branches being the traditional Chinese system for tracking time, right?
Correct.
Like the rat, the ox, the tiger, basically mapping out the hours of the day.
Precisely. So the day was divided into 12 two-hour periods called shichen. Each branch corresponds to one of those periods.
Okay, I'm following.
For example, Z is the period from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., which is the absolute peak of yin energy in the cosmological cycle.
So what does that mean for his magic?
What this means is that Ma Jinchuan's magic is highly regulated by the physical laws of the universe. To become invisible during the Z hour, he literally must apply the specific Z talisman to his head.
Wow.
And if the clock strikes 1 a.m. and shifts into the Chow hour, that talisman likely stops working. He has to swap it out.
That requires immense preparation.
It does. An encyclopedic knowledge of astrological timing and a deep understanding of how qi, or vital energy, flows through the environment throughout the day.
Which tells us a lot about his character. Like, he isn't some chaotic street brawler who just stumbled upon a magic item.
Not at all. He's a highly disciplined specialist.
Right. He operates within a rigid, rules-based framework of reality. He has aligned his own physical presence with the metaphysical alignment of the cosmos.
It's very high-level execution.
Yeah. And he has pulled it off flawlessly.
Yeah.
He's standing in the study. The official is there, completely unaware. Jigong is there, just drinking wine. The assassination is essentially a done deal.
It's a checkmate scenario.
But then it falls apart.
Right. The rigid framework collapses. And not because the magic fails, but because of a psychological vulnerability.
This is the best part.
Ma Jinchuan overhears Jigong casually mentioning to the official that he is about to perform an esoteric magic trick called Jade Maiden descending to the mortal realm.
I am so fascinated by the psychology here. Here is an elite operative, a guy who literally calls himself the Formless Taisui.
Right.
And by the way, Taisui is a major deity, right?
Yes, the Grand Commander of the Year.
Right, so it's a title that implies absolute dominion over time and destiny. So this guy with a massive god complex, who has perfectly synchronized his magic with the cosmos, hears the words magic trick, and his brain completely short circuits.
It's amazing. The text actually notes his internal monologue. He thinks to himself that he wants to watch and learn a few tricks.
Learn a few tricks while he's on an assassination mission.
Exactly. He actively makes the decision to delay the assassination, delay the theft of the seal, and sneak closer to the table just to watch Jigong perform.
This is the ultimate spectacle versus stealth failure. It reminds me of the most embarrassing breaches in modern cybersecurity.
Oh, how so?
Well, you'll have a state-sponsored hacker who uses a brilliant million-dollar zero-day exploit to bypass a corporation's firewall.
Okay,
right?
they get in deep.
Yeah, they're inside the mainframe, completely undetected, ready to steal the source code. But instead of downloading the data and getting out, they decide to snoop through the CEO's personal emails out of sheer curiosity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that unauthorized access triggers an internal audit alarm. It is hubris mixed with a total lack of impulse control.
That analogy is spot on. Ma Jinchuan's magic system requires incredible discipline to set up, but he completely lacks the internal discipline to see it through.
Yeah.
And Jigong, who happens to be the only person in the room whose spiritual cultivation allows him to actually see through this invisibility, exploits that lack of discipline perfectly.
It's almost too easy for him.
It really is, because as Ma Jinchuan is literally crouching under the table to get a better view of the trick, Jigong just reaches down and nonchalantly peels the talisman right off the assassin's head.
No epic counterspell, no magical duel. He just pulls off a sticker.
Just pulls off a sticker.
Yeah.
And instantly, the Formless Taisui is very much formed.
He's just a guy under a table.
Yeah, he's visible, crouching there like a fool, and is immediately seized by the guards.
That's hilarious. But there's a deeper point here too, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. The philosophical commentary here is incredibly sharp. The author is demonstrating that highly technical advantages, whether they are magical talismans, advanced weaponry, or complex software, they're entirely useless if the human being wielding them is susceptible to base psychological distraction.
Right.
Ma Jinchuan thought the battlefield was the physical study. Jigong knew the real battlefield was Ma Jinchuan's own attention span.
Jigong didn't even have to break a sweat. He just dangled a shiny object, the promise of a spectacle, and let the assassin defeat himself.
Exactly.
It makes you realize that when you are relying on a highly complex system for your security, the single point of failure is almost always the human mind.
Always.
But, taking down one distracted assassin in a quiet, enclosed room, it feels like a very controlled experiment.
Oh, it is entirely controlled. The stakes and the variables shift exponentially when we move out of the study and into the field.
Right. I'm super curious how this philosophy scales up. When you're dealing with an entire syndicate out in the open, where the rules of engagement are chaotic, violent, and highly unpredictable, how does a single monk exploit group psychology?
Well, that brings us to Majiahu Village, where things get incredibly gritty.
Set the scene for us.
Okay, so we shift focus to a hero named Yang Ming, who is in the middle of a raid. The environment is chaotic. Suddenly, Yang Ming is ambushed and knocked unconscious by a villain operating under the name White Lotus Scholar Yun Fei.
Okay, bad news.
Very bad news. And Yun Fei doesn't just hit him with a standard weapon. The text specifies he uses something called a sand soul-stealing bag.
Okay, we need to pause and break that down because sand soul-stealing bag sounds absolutely terrifying.
It really does.
What are we actually talking about in the context of 12th century martial arts fantasy?
So in the broader genre of wuxia and shenmo, which is martial arts and gods and demons fiction, these esoteric weapons often blend physical toxicity with dark magic. A soul-stealing bag isn't necessarily capturing a soul like, a ghost trap. It usually contains highly refined toxic sands mixed with spiritual suppressants.
Whoa. So it's chemical warfare.
Kind of. When struck by it, or when inhaling the dust, the victim's chi is instantly dispersed. Their nervous system shuts down, their consciousness scatters, and they drop like a stone.
That is brutal.
It is. It establishes Yun Fei not just as a skilled fighter, but as a lethal, pragmatic killer who uses specialized area of effect weaponry.
Well, Yang Ming is on the ground, completely incapacitated. His chi is scattered. Yun Fei steps up, weapon in hand, preparing to execute him.
Right.
We are at a moment of absolute immediate peril. The hero is about to die. But before Yun Fei can strike the lethal blow, someone standing behind him speaks up.
Yes.
And the voice uses a very specific coded word. The word is hezi.
Hezi. Which translates roughly to comrade, partner, or brother-in-arms in the specific dialect of the local bandit underworld.
It's slang.
Exactly. And the voice says, "Leave this to me."
Here is where the psychology gets so fascinating again. Yun Fei is a hardened, lethal criminal in the middle of an active war zone. But upon hearing that one word, he completely drops his guard.
He does.
He steps aside to let his supposed comrade take the kill. And the instant he steps aside, the man behind him swings a blade and decapitates Yun Fei on the spot.
A brutal, instant elimination. But the twist is the identity of the executioner.
Right.
It wasn't a fellow bandit trying to steal the glory of the kill. It was a local government constable, Zhu Rui, who had been strategically placed in the village by Jigong.
So my immediate question is, why does a high-level warlock fall for this?
It's a good question.
I mean, I understand cognitive load in a battlefield, but this is basic situational awareness. Why doesn't Yun Fei turn around, verify the identity of the person speaking, and realize that a uniformed cop is standing behind him with a drawn sword?
Because Zhu Rui had hacked the Bandits' IFF system.
Wait, IFF?
Identification Friend or Foe Protocol. The text reveals that Zhu Rui was wearing a single white goose feather tucked securely into his temple.
A goose feather?
Yeah. Earlier in the narrative, Jigong had intercepted intelligence revealing that this exact item, a white goose feather, was the localized daily password for this specific criminal syndicate.
Oh, that is so smart.
Right. It was their visual shorthand to recognize each other in the chaos of a raid.
I love this because it really exposes the fragility of the Jigong. We always hear about the Jigong, the rivers and lakes, the martial arts underworld, as this romanticized parallel society of outlaws and heroes.
Right. Very honorable.
But practically speaking, when you have dozens of undocumented fighters brawling in a village square, you can't stop and check ID badges.
No, you can't.
So you can't run a background check. You have to rely on visual signifiers. An armband, a specific color of sash, or in this case, a goose feather.
It is an ancient form of military cryptography, and Jigong explicitly identifies the tactical philosophy he is employing here. He refers to the classic proverb, fish eyes mixed with pearls.
Okay, break that down for me.
The concept is brilliant in its simplicity. If the water is muddy, meaning if the battlefield is chaotic and you toss in a handful of fish eyes, they look completely identical to precious pearls.
Right.
You don't need to defeat the enemy's security system. You just need to mimic its parameters so perfectly that the enemy's own brain accepts the forgery as authentic.
It's pure social engineering.
Yeah.
It's like modern physical penetration testers.
Exact.
If you want to break into a secure corporate facility, you don't scale the walls like a ninja. You put on a high-visibility yellow vest, you grab a clipboard and a ladder, and you just walk through the front door.
Yeah, nobody stops the guy with a ladder.
Right. Because people's brains are hardwired to look for patterns. They see the yellow vest and the brain's internal security protocol says, maintenance worker, he belongs here.
Right.
And they just stop processing new information.
They don't look at your face.
No, they look at the vest.
That is exactly what happened to young Fei. He was experiencing intense cognitive load. He heard the localized slang, hezi, which triggered a sense of familiarity.
Right.
Out of the corner of his eye, he caught the peripheral flash of the white goose feather, and his brain immediately autocorrected the rest of the sensory data.
It just filled in the blanks.
Precisely. The pattern matched the expected algorithm for ally. His brain told him, this is a friend, and he lowered his defenses. He bypassed his own security checks because the cognitive shortcut was too tempting in a high-stress environment.
It's so pragmatic. I mean, no clashing swords, no mystical energy beams, just a hacked password, a fake ID badge, and a quick strike.
Very efficient.
It really drives home the point that the most dangerous weapon on a battlefield isn't a soul-stealing sandbag. It's bad intelligence.
And Jigong's mastery of manipulating that intelligence becomes even more pronounced as the narrative pushes deeper into the village.
Oh, this is where it gets crazy.
We move from the chaotic streets into the enclosed courtyard of a specific house owned by Ma Jun. And inside this house, a much larger, much more terrifying standoff is taking place.
Yeah, this scene completely shifts the tone. Inside the house, the good guys are losing. Badly.
Very badly.
We have two incredibly powerful practitioners of dark magic, Peng Zhen and Zhu Heng. They have unleashed their esoteric arts, and they have successfully neutralized and captured 4 of the main heroes.
Peng Zhen and Zhu Heng are not foot soldiers. They are presented as heavy-hitting warlocks. They have absolute control of the room, and they are basking in it.
Oh, they love it.
They do. They are engaging in classic villain posturing. Peng Zhen stands over the remaining terrified heroes and delivers a monologue. He literally says, "Don't panic. You all have to deal with me. Watch me use a little trick. I guarantee I'll catch you 1 by 1 or 2 by 2.
He is high on his own supply. He feels completely invincible.
He really does.
The tension in that room must be suffocating. It's a high-stakes, magical hostage situation. The heroes are out of options. The warlocks are winding up for the finishing blow. And then the door slowly opens.
And in walks Jigong.
Yes.
But we have to look closely at the stage directions the author provides here. Jigong does not burst through the door surrounded by a halo of golden Buddha light. He doesn't shout a terrifying war cry.
Far from it. The text describes him entering the room staggering.
Right.
He's acting completely drunk, stumbling over his own feet, swaying back and forth, and peacefully chanting the standard Buddhist greeting, Amitabha. Excellent, excellent.
And the reaction this provokes from the 2 terrifying dark magic users is instantaneous, absolute panic.
It is the most jarring tonal whiplash imaginable. We go from this gritty, terrifying hostage standoff to pure slapstick comedy in a fraction of a second.
Totally.
Peng Zhen is literally mid-sentence, bragging about his dark, invincible power, and then this unkempt, staggering monk bumps into the doorframe, and the villains scatter like roaches when the kitchen lights flick on.
They really do.
Despite having hostages, despite having the high ground, they do not cast a single spell. They do not utter a single counter threat. They just turn and sprint for their lives.
The mechanics of their flight are deeply tied to the concept of face and reputation within the Jianghu.
Oh, tell me more about that.
Well, the text explicitly tells the reader that Peng Zhen and Zhu Heng recognized Jigong from a previous off-page encounter at the Iron Buddha Temple.
Okay, so there's history here.
Yes. During that prior encounter, they witnessed the true, overwhelming, godlike scale of Jigong's power.
So their reaction isn't to the staggering drunk in front of them. It's a trauma response to the memory of what that drunk is actually capable of.
Exactly. This is a masterclass in how reputation functions as a deterrent, as an invisible force multiplier. In ancient military strategy, particularly in texts like Sun Tzu's Art of War, the ultimate victory is subduing the enemy without fighting.
And that's exactly what he does here.
Jigong achieves this perfectly. He doesn't need to expend any chi, he doesn't need to reveal his hand. The memory of his power does all the heavy lifting. The staggering, the chanting of Amitabha, it's a psychological weapon. It creates a horrific cognitive dissonance for the warlocks.
How so?
They know he has the power of a god, but he's acting like a fool, which means he is so entirely unthreatened by them that he doesn't even feel the need to sober up for the fight.
That is such a brilliant read on the situation. Peng Zhen, giving a menacing monologue, actually reveals his deep insecurity. I mean, he needs to vocalize his dominance to make it real.
Exactly.
And then Jigong, stumbling in and mumbling a greeting, reveals absolute, unshakable confidence. True power doesn't need to posture.
And the psychological collapse of the leadership immediately infects the rank and file.
Oh, the foot soldiers.
Yeah, once Peng Zhen and Zhu Heng flee, the remaining 16 bandit foot soldiers in the room are left completely leaderless and terrified. They panic and try to scramble onto the roof to escape.
But Jigong isn't going to let them just walk away.
No, he's not.
The psychological warfare is over, and now he needs physical crowd control. So he simply points his finger at the fleeing bandits and speaks a single phrase, decree of he. And instantly, all 16 bandits are frozen solid in place, like statues on the roof.
This is a fascinating moment of actual applied magic, and it's worth unpacking the linguistic and theological roots of that phrase. Decree of he.
Right, where does that come from?
The use of or is deeply significant. It traces back to the primordial sound of the universe in Dharmic religions, adopted heavily into esoteric Buddhism and mantras. It isn't just a generic magic word like abracadabra.
It's an assertion of universal order.
Exactly. By invoking Jigong is essentially overriding the localized chaotic reality of the bandits with the fundamental structured reality of the cosmos.
That's heavy.
The decree of he likely refers to a specific command or a localized deity's authority, but the mechanism is vibrational and spiritual. He is locking their chi, freezing their physical forms by binding their spiritual energy.
It's just instant crowd control.
It shows the sheer, effortless reality of his power. He used psychology to rout the leaders because it was efficient, but when he needs absolute physical control over the grunts, he snaps his fingers and suspends the laws of physics.
Okay, so the room is completely secured, the heroes are untied, the villains are immobilized on the roof.
Right.
Usually in a traditional wuxia epic, this is the exact moment where the heroes exact their bloody vengeance, wipe out the bad guys, and celebrate a definitive victory. But Jigong stops them and issues a very specific and frankly bizarre set of instructions.
He orders the heroes to execute the frozen bandits to prevent them from causing future harm to the village.
Okay, standard so far.
However, he adds a massive, highly specific caveat. He tells them to kill exactly 13 of the bandits, but they must keep exactly 3 alive.
Just 3.
And he even goes so far as to identify the 3 survivors by name: Han Xiu, Yang Zi, and Zheng Qi.
From a purely tactical standpoint, leaving 3 alive makes 0 sense. I mean, if you are a vigilante operating in the Jianghu, your primary goal is threat elimination. Leaving 3 guys alive just leaves 3 guys who are going to hold a grudge and plot revenge. So what is his end game here? Are these 3 guys secret informants? Do they hold the map to a larger conspiracy?
Nothing so romantic, I'm afraid. Jigong explicitly states his reasoning, and it is entirely bureaucratic.
Bureaucratic.
Yes. He says he needs those 3 specific men kept alive so they can be handed over to the local constables. The constables need to transport them to the Changshan County Magistrate's office so they can be officially processed, and the legal case of the bandit raid can be formally closed on the government's books.
I find this detail absolutely hilarious, but also deeply profound.
It is both.
This is the equivalent of Batman dropping out of the sky, beating the Joker and his henchmen to a pulp, but then forcing Robin to sit down at a desk and fill out the citizens' arrest forms in triplicate.
Right.
Just so that Commissioner Gordon's precinct doesn't get audited by the mayor's office for improper chain of custody. It is such a wildly pragmatic administrative detail to insert into a story about dark magic, soul-stealing sand, and freezing mantras.
It is jarring, but it synthesizes a major thematic tension that runs throughout the entire body of classic Chinese literature.
Which is?
The fundamental clash between Jianghu justice and state bureaucracy.
Let's really expand on that tension, because the Jianghu is a concept that is foundational to this genre, but its relationship with the actual government is often misunderstood.
Exactly. The Jianghu, literally meaning the rivers and lakes, refers to the parallel society of martial artists, wanderers, outlaws, and secret societies. It operates on the fringes of the empire, completely outside the bounds of conventional law.
Right. It has its own rules.
In the pure Jianghu, disputes are settled by blood, strength, and rigid personal codes of honor. Vigilante justice isn't just accepted, it is the moral imperative. If someone attacks your sect, you eradicate them. That is the karma of the Jianghu.
Which is precisely the logic Jigong applies to the 13 bandits he ordered executed. He tells the heroes to kill them to prevent future harm. That is a karmic cleansing. It is a permanent, bloody solution to irredeemable threats.
Yes, but Jigong is a unique entity. He is a magical, enlightened being. He is entirely unbound by earthly rules.
Sure.
He could easily have frozen all 16, let the heroes kill all 16, and then vanished into the mountains. The village would be safe. The Jianghu logic would be satisfied.
So why doesn't he?
Yet, he actively chooses to halt the slaughter to satisfy the demands of the state bureaucracy.
Why, though? If he
Yeah.
transcends the law, why does he care about a county magistrate's paperwork?
Because he understands that while karmic justice might balance the spiritual scales, the ordinary people of Majiahu village still have to live in the physical, heavily regulated world of the Song dynasty.
Oh, that makes sense.
The Song dynasty had a highly complex legal code, the Song Xingtong. A local magistrate couldn't just write a magical monk handled it, and everyone is dead on his official reports to the imperial capital.
Well, that wouldn't fly.
Not at all. The bureaucracy demanded physical evidence. It demanded confessions. It demanded warm bodies to stand trial and be officially punished by the state apparatus.
And if they didn't have that?
If the magistrate didn't have prisoners to close the case, the village might be investigated for harboring fugitives, or the constables might be punished for incompetence.
So Jigong bridges the metaphysical and the municipal. He balances the cosmic scales by administering vigilante justice to the 13, but he actively protects the structural integrity of the local government by giving the magistrate the exact paperwork and the breathing prisoners they need to function.
Exactly.
It shows a profound respect for the mundane, boring structures that keep everyday society from collapsing into total anarchy.
It grounds the fantasy in a very recognizable reality. It reminds the reader that even if you possess the power to freeze time with a single spoken syllable, you still cannot escape municipal paperwork.
Death and taxes, right?
Always.
So he turns to the homeowner, Ma Chun, and asks to borrow a carrying pole and some rope. And this completely innocent request for a piece of wood launches us directly out of the magical realm and into the hyper-realistic, cutthroat economics of 12th century street life.
The level of economic detail the author provides in this transition is staggering. Ma Jun's family doesn't just hand Jigong any random stick they found in the yard.
No.
They procure a specific mountain elm pole. And the narrative pauses the action to explicitly note that this specific pole is worth exactly 2 taels of silver.
Let's put that into perspective for everyone listening, because to a modern reader, 2 taels of silver might sound like pocket change, or it might sound like a fortune. What is the actual purchasing power of this piece of wood?
So the Song dynasty operated on a complex currency system, often utilizing a bimetallic standard, but for the common folk, transactions were done in copper cash.
Those the round coins with the square holes in the middle, right?
Yeah. Yes, exactly. 1 tael of silver was a significant denomination of wealth, often fluctuating, but roughly equivalent to 1,000 to 1,200 copper cash.
Okay.
A common day laborer might earn a few dozen to 100 cash a day. So a pole worth 2 taels of silver, roughly 2,000 to 2,400 cash, is essentially a piece of heavy machinery.
Wow.
It is a high-quality, durable, professional-grade tool. It represents a month's wages for a working-class family.
That's incredible. It establishes that in this world, even mundane objects hold massive, quantifiable economic weight.
Absolutely.
So Jigong takes his highly valuable elm pole, leaves the village, and walks about 8 miles to a bustling commercial hub called 8 Mile Post.
He arrives just as the sun is coming up, and he heads straight for the local noisy market, which is the era's equivalent of a day labor market.
This visual is incredible. I mean, Jigong This immensely powerful magical entity who just single-handedly routed an army of warlocks and bandits, walks into a dusty labor market, squats down on the dirt with his pole, and tries to get picked up for a gig as a baggage porter.
He is trying to blend into the lowest rung of the economic ladder. But the local, established laborers immediately spot him, surround him, and aggressively tell him to leave.
Just immediately hostile.
Yeah. They inform him, in no uncertain terms, that outsiders are not permitted to sell their physical strength on that specific corner. This market is their exclusive territory.
It is an ancient, informal labor union.
Pretty much.
They are fiercely protecting their turf. Now, a lesser martial arts hero might just beat them up to prove dominance. But Jigong, leaning into his chaotic persona, decides to fight them using pure, weaponized bureaucratic logic.
He looks at them and asks, "If I am not allowed to work here, by whose authority? Do you have an official permit stamped by the ministry?
That's so funny.
Do you possess a wooden plaque from the prefecture granting you a monopoly? Has the county magistrate issued a public notice declaring this corner your exclusive domain?"
He is literally demanding to see their union charter. He's asking for their zoning permits.
And of course, the laborers are completely flummoxed. They have none of those official documents. The Song dynasty had official merchant guilds, called hang, which regulated trade, but these day laborers are operating on informal street rules. It is an unwritten social contract enforced by intimidation, not legal right.
So Jigong basically smiles and says, well, if you don't have a government permit to monopolize this public street, then under the eyes of the emperor, I have just as much legal right to sit here as you do. I'm staying.
Which is technically true.
Yeah. And the laborers, faced with the guy quoting imaginary municipal codes, just look at him, look at his ragged clothes and conclude, okay, this monk is clearly insane. Let's just ignore him.
What is fascinating about this interaction is the stark realism of the territorial labor market. It provides a vivid historical glimpse into working-class protectionism.
It really does.
These men rely on controlling this physical space to ensure they get enough work to feed their families. They have created an enclosed microeconomy. And Jigong pokes holes in it not to steal their jobs, but to expose the fragility of their claim. He is demonstrating how much of daily human society operates on assumed authority rather than actual authority.
He loves exposing the invisible rules we all blindly follow. But his patience for sitting in the dirt is apparently limited.
Yes, very limited.
He decides that if he can't get a job as a porter, he might as well get some breakfast. So he stands up, walks away from the labor market, and steps into a massive, opulent, high-end restaurant.
And this transition sets the stage for a masterclass in the satirization of superficiality and class dynamics.
Oh, absolutely. The contrast is dialed up to 11. Jigong walks into this luxury establishment. Remember his visual presentation? He is dressed in absolute literal rags. He looks destitute, dirty, and half crazy. The waiter spots him and immediately starts running an internal calculus, aggressively judging him. The text gives us the waiter's inner thoughts. He thinks, a single side dish in this place costs hundreds of cash. A full meal runs into several strings of cash. Why doesn't this beggar take whatever pennies he has and buy a new robe instead of wandering in here?
The waiter's entire worldview is dictated by external markers of wealth. He cannot compute why a poor man would enter a rich space. But then, the waiter notices the carrying pole in Jigong's hand.
Right. The waiter has an eye for quality. He recognizes the mountain elm pole. He mentally appraises it and knows it is worth at least 2 taels of silver, so his calculus shifts.
He gets greedy.
Totally. He thinks, okay, this ragged monk definitely can't pay his bill in cash. But when the time comes to settle up, we can just confiscate his expensive piece of wood as collateral. We might even make a profit.
The waiter assumes that because Jigong looks poor, he must be ignorant of the pole's actual market value.
So the waiter walks over, dripping with condescension, and asks for his order. Jigong, who possesses profound spiritual insight and knows exactly what this guy is scheming, decides to call him out immediately.
I love this part.
He says, you aren't looking at me. You're just eyeing my pole, aren't you? Fine. Just bring me whatever amount of food this piece of wood is worth.
The waiter, caught in his own grift, tries to play innocent, vehemently denying that he wants the pole. And it is in this exact moment of social friction that Jigong delivers a line that I believe is the philosophical anchor, the absolute thesis statement of this entire narrative.
Oh, you mean the proverb about the bun?
Yes. Jigong stares at the waiter and says, the meat of the bun is on the inside, not on the folds.
Okay, we all know what a steamed bun, a baozi, looks like. But let's unpack how Jigong is weaponizing this specific imagery against the waiter's classism.
Well, in culinary terms, a baozi is pinched closed at the top, creating elaborate folds or pleats in the dough. A poorly made, cheap bun might boast beautiful, intricate pleating on the outside to look appealing, but contain very little filling.
Huh.
A truly excellent, high-quality bun might look plain, lumpy, or poorly folded on the outside, but it is stuffed full of rich, expensive meat on the inside. Jigong is taking this everyday object and turning it into a profound socioeconomic metaphor.
It is, don't judge a book by its cover, but specifically applied to wealth, status, and spiritual substance.
Exactly.
He is telling the waiter, you are obsessed with the elaborate pleating on the outside of the dough, my ragged clothes, my dirty face, the fancy decor of your restaurant, but you are completely blind to the filling.
That's perfectly said.
Do not judge my financial capacity or my internal worth by my exterior. The true value is hidden inside.
It perfectly encapsulates Jigong's entire operational ethos. He hides immense, world-bending power and actual wealth beneath an exterior designed to look like poverty and madness. He forces people to engage with his outer folds, knowing they will underestimate the meat inside.
And then, just to hammer his point home and completely shatter the waiter's assumptions, Jigong orders an absolute feast.
He doesn't hold back.
No. He demands 4 custom-prepared dishes. 1 fried, 1 stir-fried, 1 boiled, and 1 deep-fried. And to top it off, he orders 2 pots of a beverage called ginseng dew.
Ginseng dew is explicitly presented as an extreme luxury item. The waiter, panicking slightly, feels compelled to warn this ragged monk about the price. He tells Jigong that a single pot of ginseng dew costs 1,200 cash.
Which ties back to our earlier economic breakdown. 1 tael of silver is roughly 1,000 to 1,200 cash. So a single pot of this drink costs the equivalent of a heavy piece of machinery, or a month's rent for a peasant.
It is an exorbitant sum, and Jigong's reaction is brilliant. He doesn't flinch. In fact, he actively gaslights the waiter.
He really does.
He laughs and says, 1,200 cash. That is incredibly cheap. Where I come from, a single pot of this stuff costs 200,000 cash. Since you're selling it at a massive discount, I'll take 2 pots.
Okay, we have to analyze his motives here because that is an insane thing to say. Is he just being an absolute troll?
He is absolutely being a troll, but it is a philosophically motivated trolling.
It really is. I mean, think about the sequence of events. He deliberately walks into a high-end restaurant looking like a beggar, clutching a highly valuable piece of wood, specifically to trigger the waiter's biases.
Yes.
And his claim about the ginseng dew costing 200,000 cash is pure performance art. He is inducing hyperinflation as a bluff.
Right.
He is demonstrating to the waiter that price is largely an illusion, that value is entirely subjective based on geography and perspective, and that the waiter's rigid worldview based entirely on superficial markers of status and fixed menus is ridiculous.
He completely dismantles the social hierarchy and the economic reality of the restaurant before the food even arrives at the table.
And as he is sitting there, savoring his incredibly expensive, philosophically loaded breakfast, fate intervenes.
Yes, it does.
Who should stumble through the front doors of the restaurant but the very men who fled from him earlier that night?
The 2 dark magic users from the village stand off, Peng Zhen and Zhu Heng.
The warlocks. They have been running in blind terror all night. They get completely lost in the mountains, they're exhausted, and by sheer miserable coincidence, they stagger into the exact same restaurant at 8 Mile Post to get some rest.
Talk about the inescapable nature of karma.
Seriously.
The moment they walk through the door and see Jigong sitting calmly at a table, sipping luxury ginseng dew, they are paralyzed with absolute terror.
They must have thought they were hallucinating.
Probably. They try to turn around and sprint back into the street, but Jigong doesn't even stand up. He simply points his finger, invokes his magic, and freezes both of them solid in their tracks.
And what follows is perhaps the most audacious, hilarious, and morally ambiguous sequence in the entire chapter. This is where Jigong executes the ultimate grift.
He walks over to these 2 frozen, terrifying practitioners of the dark arts. He doesn't draw a weapon to execute them. He doesn't offer them a path to spiritual redemption.
Okay.
He simply raises his hand and physically slaps them across the face. 10 times each.
Just loud, ringing slaps in the middle of a crowded restaurant. It is absolute, total disrespect.
And as he's physically assaulting them, he loudly proclaims to the entire dining room, "You 2 scoundrels! You finally showed up. You stole the silver from my temple's 20 acres of land."
Which is a complete 100% fabrication. They didn't steal any temple money. They were busy holding people hostage in a village.
Exactly. It is a brazen lie. But we have to look at the sociology of why he tells this specific lie. Jigong is about to do something highly illegal, and he needs a socially acceptable, legally plausible backstory.
That makes sense.
By inventing this narrative about stolen temple funds, he provides a cognitive framework that the onlookers in the restaurant can easily digest. The patrons think, these monks are having an internal financial dispute over real estate. It's temple business. We shouldn't interfere.
It gives him social cover to commit a crime in broad daylight, because what he does next is literally mug them.
Literally mug them.
He digs into Peng Zhen's robes and pulls out over 10 taels of silver. Then he digs into Zhu Heng's pockets and extracts over 40 taels. He confiscates over 50 taels of silver in total.
And he holds the silver up for the crowd to see, loudly declaring, "Look at this! This is my stolen silver!" And you haven't even managed to spend it all yet.
He uses the warlock's own money to pay his massive 2,400 cash restaurant bill. The audacity is staggering.
The moral ambiguity here is a fascinating aspect of the text. Jigong is an enlightened being, a living Buddha, yet he operates entirely outside conventional morality to achieve what he views as a morally necessary end. He is lying to the public, he is physically assaulting defenseless men, and he is robbing them blind.
But because they are evil warlocks who were just torturing heroes a few hours ago, the text frames it as completely justified.
Within the framework of the story, it is justified as karmic redistribution. In the Jianghu, wealth often equates to power and influence. By stripping them of their silver, he isn't just paying his tab, he is stripping them of their worldly resources. But he doesn't stop at financial ruin.
No, he goes for total psychological destruction. He takes his highly valuable mountain elm pole, the one the waiter was scheming to steal, and he ties Peng Zhen to one end of it and Zhu Heng to the other.
Oh, this visual's amazing.
He physically hoists these two grown, frozen men onto his shoulders, balancing them like sacks of grain, and walks out the front door of the restaurant.
The impact of this public spectacle cannot be overstated. In traditional Chinese culture, and especially in the macho culture of the Jianghu, the concept of face or mianzi, one's dignity, prestige, and social standing, is everything.
It's basically their lifeblood.
It is. The text notes that the entire street stops dead to stare at this bizarre, humiliating sight, a ragged monk carrying two notorious warlocks like literal luggage on a stick.
And when the baffled onlookers inevitably ask him what on earth he's doing, Jigong just smiles, taps into his crazy persona, and says, "Oh, you people have no vision. I'm just helping my temple move to a new location."
He turns them into a public punchline. It is the ultimate subjugation. If he had simply killed them in the village, they would have died as feared warlocks. By turning them into a circus act, he destroys their reputation permanently.
Yeah, there's no coming back from that.
Exactly. Even if they survive this, they can never show their faces in the Jianghu again. Their power, which was largely based on the fear they inspired, is gone forever.
It is brilliant, ruthless execution. But let's be real about the physics of this situation. Carrying two fully grown adult men on a wooden pole across your shoulders is incredibly heavy, exhausting manual labor. Even for a magical monk, that is a grueling trek back to the village.
It definitely is.
Which brings us full circle back to how Jigong handles the labor market.
Right. He doesn't start walking back to the village. He heads straight back to the very same noisy market that rejected him at dawn.
He walks right back to the same crew of territorial porters who told him outsiders weren't allowed. The guys who concluded he was an insane beggar. He walks right up to their corner, sweating, carrying these two frozen warlocks like giant dumbbells.
Yeah.
And he casually flashes the 50 taels of silver he just stole from his prisoners.
And suddenly, the crazy beggar is the most important man on the street. He has their undivided attention.
Oh, absolutely. The dynamic flits instantly. He looks at the laborers and spins yet another brilliant lie. He says, "Hey, boys, these two monks here hired me for 50 taels to carry them all the way to Majiohu village. But my shoulders are getting tired.
It's so good.
Who wants in on this gig? If 8 of you agree to help me, working in rotating shifts, 2 guys carrying at a time, I will pay you 1 tael of silver each."
And the laborers, the very men who just hours earlier were fiercely defending their informal union rules and kicking them off their turf out of territorial pride, they immediately abandon every single one of their principles. They eagerly, desperately agree to the job.
Of course they do. We established earlier that a tael of silver is a massive amount of money. It's a month's wages for a day's walk. They would carry the emperor himself on their backs for that kind of cash.